Listening to Thunder and Lightning on SuperTalk Mississippi, covering Mississippi State sports like nobody else. With Sports Talk Mississippi's Brian Hadad and Robbie Faulk of On3 Sports. Now get ready for Thunder and Lightning.
This is Thunder and Lightning here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Brian Hadad and Robbie Faulk here with you on a Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining us here at supertalk.fm or wherever it is that you get podcasts from. We appreciate all you guys out there, our great listeners, especially our servicemen and women out there taking care of us. I want to thank our sponsors over at Strange Brew Coffee House and Churn and Spoon Ice Cream. Start your day the right way with a trip to the drive-thru over at Strange Brew Coffee House here in Starkville or at Brupolo over in Tupelo. Be a little weird, Robbie, if Brupolo was in Cliftonville.
That would be a little weird. That's a mouthful. It feels like Ville shouldn't be included there.
It should just be Clifton?
Yes.
Well, it's Cliftonville.
Cliftonville is just it's too much.
A lot going on there. Wherever you are in our great state, you can enjoy Strange Brew Coffee each and every morning. It's just a click away, strangebrewcoffeehouse.com. Don't forget, if you haven't already, you want to win a prize pack from Strange Brew Coffee this holiday season, tweet at us. At Hey, Brian Hadad, Robbie Faulk, and Strange Brew Coffee House, all the Twitter handles. It'd be a little weird if Brupolo was in wherever it is that you're from. The more obscure, the better. Got a great chance of winning a prize pack from Strange Brew Coffee House. The Mississippi Beef Council wants to remind you that beef, it is what's for dinner. Whatever you're cooking out this weekend, it's going to be a little chilly. That means you need to fire up the grill and stand by it. And get a good hot fire going and sear you a steak over that, and everybody's going to be a happy camper. If you don't want to cook out, you want to let somebody else do the cooking for you, we have so many great steakhouses in this state. You can't go wrong with any of them. Vote for your favorite one at the Mississippi Beef Council Facebook page. They've got the best steakhouse and the best burger joint polls up right now. You can vote for your favorite place in the state of Mississippi to grab some beef. It's what's for dinner, thanks to our friends at the Mississippi Beef Council. College Corner, collegecornerstore.com is the place to find the maroon and white merchandise that you are looking for. I know that you are looking for it. Got the word today. Here's the deal. For Black Friday, we've got, it is Beat the Clock. Starting 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., you can get 40% off. This is only on apparel only. 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., 25% off. 11 a.m. to close, 10% off. That's apparel only. That's at all 3 locations. Now, I will tell you that if you're going to the Egg Bowl and you go by the College Corner location in Oxford, you're going to have a tough time if you're not an Ole Miss fan. You're going to have a tough time with that. But those 3 locations, Ridgeland by Fleet Feet, Flowood by the Half Shell, and then the Oxford location as well. Cyber Monday, 25% off site-wide. Code is CYBER, capital C, 24, no space in there. And you can save 25% off anything on the site on Cyber Monday. So some great specials coming your way from College Corner. Restaurant Tyler, Starkville's flagship restaurant. Lunch, dinner, Sunday brunch. The best meal in town is always going to be at Restaurant Tyler. I love dinner at Restaurant Tyler. People don't talk about it enough. I think we focus a lot about lunch on this show because, lunch it's an easy meal for me and Robbie to grab. Dinner requires some planning, but man, when you go eat there, it's just so worth it. It's the best. It's the easily the best dinner in town. So many great options. They have the best steak in town, in my opinion. And, of course, my favorite dessert, the stuffed pancake. When you want to have a real special occasion, make sure you have your meal at Restaurant Tyler. Priority One Bank, 16 locations to serve you throughout Central Mississippi. Let PriorityOneBank.com be your guide and show you not only where they're located, but they're going to show you how they're going to help you invest, help you manage your money, help you prepare for the future. Now more than ever, you need to be able to talk to people about your money. You need to be able to get somebody on the phone and you want to have a question, you want to get it answered. Who has time to wait around on hold and deal with people who don't know you? You want that relationship with your local bank, you get that with Priority One Bank. Let Priority One Bank make you their priority. We got a couple of interviews on today's show. We got some Egg Bowl preview with Michael Borkey from Sports Talk Mississippi. And we will relive some Egg Bowls past with our friend Nick Fitzgerald. Talked about the 2 Egg Bowl wins that he was a part of. We kind of left the middle game there out by design. I will go ahead and prepare young ears. Nick knows that the podcast is FCC compliant to have some profanity on it. So that happens. So just go ahead and prepare you for it. But Robbie, I want to start with
Turn it off, Mom.
Juji, get out of here. You can listen to this part, but when
It's
you
not
hear
worth
Nick's
it.
voice, get out. I want to start with this. Each week we come on the show, and it's been tough at times, most of the time, to try to find a way for State to win, to try to talk ourselves into, all right, if State's going to have success this week, this is how it happens. Ole Miss's biggest strength that coincides with one of State's biggest weaknesses. I think State's biggest weakness is on the defensive line. Now, Ole Miss has not been able to run the ball very well this year, so we'll see how that pans out. I fully expect them to have success in this game. But State's offensive line has been a weakness this year. They've given up a lot of sacks. Ole Miss's defensive line may be the best in the country. You've got 4 guys who will play at the next level, all starting for them. So it makes it difficult because I don't know what State's game plan is. I don't know what State's going to have to do offensively to be able to move the football. I'd like to think they can find some mismatches and maybe run the football a little bit, but that's going to be tough on this defensive line. So, Robbie, when I ask you, where is Ole Miss weak? Where can State have success against the Rebels? Either side of the ball, what is the first thing you think of?
I don't see a lot of places where State can have success just because, and there are weaknesses with Ole Miss. I just don't think that State has the ability to expose those.
Yeah.
That's the issue. That they struggle to run the football, Ole Miss. At least since the SEC play started. You go back and look at what they did. Their numbers right now are incredibly skewed. If you go back and look at what they did in non-conference compared to conference, they rushed for over 200 yards in all 4 non-conference games. They have yet to rush for over 200, I believe, in a game in SEC play. So those numbers are skewed. And then you look at SEC play, the big game they had against Arkansas of 63 points, they haven't scored over 30, I believe, in any other SEC game. So the offense has hit a little bit of a rut, at least, from where they were early in the season. I mean, it's still an offense that's, among the tops in the SEC and nationally and, total yards and things like that. But they really struggle to finish drives in the red zone. They've struggled to run the football with their running backs. Jackson Dart against Florida, he scrambled for a lot of yards, but running the football was difficult for them. But I just don't see anything that State does that can kind of counteract what they do or take advantage of their weaknesses. That's the problem. They struggle to cover. They struggle to get to the quarterback. And Jackson Dart, when he is really struggling, is when teams are able to get pressure on him. State can't do that. State can't consistently stop the run. And then on the defensive side, what Ole Miss does defensively is disrupt the line of scrimmage. And that's going to make things really difficult because State has struggled to protect Michael Van Buren. And a lot of that is not solely on the offensive line. I think Van Buren has run into sacks a couple of times. He's held the ball too long back there. He hasn't done his offensive line a lot of justice. And that's a first-year quarterback that's learning life in the SEC. And that's just been a struggle for him. So, I look at it and I don't see any way that Mississippi State can take advantage of the things that Ole Miss doesn't do well. It's one of those deals where, it feels like Ole Miss is going to have to really screw up to keep Mississippi State in this game. They're going to have to turn the ball over. They're going to have some miscues on the defensive side that allows big plays for Mississippi State. State's going to have a lot of success early in this game and start to make Ole Miss feel pressure. Because when Ole Miss has felt pressure this year, last year I thought they handled it well. Mm-hmm. You think back at some of those games in the fourth quarter last year that were close ball games. They were winning those games. They found ways to win. This year they found some ways to lose in games that were close in the fourth quarter. So for Mississippi State, you got to find a way to hang in the ball game, maybe get some success early, get a lead, and then Ole Miss starts thinking, what do we do? And they start making even more mistakes. That, to me, is the biggest chance to win this game if you're Mississippi State.
So for me, I go back to the game against Texas, Van Buren's first start, and how easily Lebby was willing to kind of get away from what he does normally, right? He played with a lot less tempo. He slowed the game down. It wasn't it wasn't effective in terms of putting points on the board, but it kept State in the game maybe longer than they should have been. And I think this Texas team is better than Ole Miss. So it makes me I have a level of confidence, I guess I could say, that Lebby can devise a game plan that whatever the few weaknesses that he can exploit on the Ole Miss defense, he will. Now, I don't know quite what you do there. My first thought, is to maybe go. The State's played a lot of two tight end this year anyway, but they've played them out wide. Maybe you bring them in. Maybe you play a little tighter formations and you try to get an advantage in the box there and run the football. This is honestly a game. I know we haven't seen him in a couple of weeks, but some Chris Parson quarterback run just to have that extra man advantage in the box maybe could have some effect. I don't know. I thought Lagway ran the ball okay against Ole Miss at times. I'm trying to think who have they played another really mobile quarterback this year. Kentucky had some luck with the quarterback run against them. I don't know if that's the answer though or not. And State's just not as good on the offensive line as either one of those teams are. Defensively, it just is what it is at this point. You tweeted out the stats this morning, and they are. I mean, I wouldn't say they're eye popping because I knew they existed, but when you see them just listed like that, and how if you want to read them off, you can. It's just an embarrassment that this Mississippi State defense is this low in literally every relevant defensive category.
They're best. The things they're the best at, which is like turnovers, they're still like 90th.
Mm-hmm.
Like this defense across the board is just there's not a single thing that they've done well. That's the crazy thing. Is like even times where State's been really bad on defense over the years, which those have been few and far between since I've been alive, since the early 90s. The defense you could look at and say, hey, well, they'll get to the quarterback, or that they do have a good defensive line, or they have some good pieces here and there. There's very little to be positive about this defense. I mean, I think we've seen some good things from Isaac Smith and Bryce Pollock and guys like that. But I mean, it's hard to find anything that this defense does well.
Yeah.
They don't tackle well. They don't get to the quarterback. They have 8 sacks on the year, I think.
Yes.
It's crazy.
What did Montez Sweat have his last year at State? He had like 11 and a half, didn't he?
Who?
That guy. Sweat.
Yeah, he was up there. I mean, he would have. And again, if you had a guy like that, I think it changes a lot for this defense. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Like they don't have anybody that could be a specialist. They don't have a defensive tackle or a nose tackle that could kind of cave in the center, and create some dramatics on the outside. There's nobody on any position on the defensive line that's been able to disrupt things up front, and it's affected the entire defense.
Yeah, there's no question. And the other side of that coin is from a scheme perspective, they don't really do anything to put pressure on the opposing offense. And go back to Saturday. The defense looked like a totally different defense the first two series. Like they were flying around, they were disguising some blitzes, they were bringing pressure, and you're like, where has this been? And then immediately they fell into their old habits, and you saw where it went from there. They just could not get off the field. The stats from Saturday, when you really look at them, the second half only having 11 plays. Time of possession. I'm a guy who thinks time of possession can be an overrated stat, especially with like an offense like Lebby's, right? Because he wants to score on big plays. But when it's 41 to 18, that's a problem. You're probably not winning that football game. So I'm with you in that it's difficult to diagnose weaknesses there. Lebby said something yesterday, and I think he's right. He said this is the most talented roster he's faced. I agree with that. I think that frontline talent, they may have more talent than Georgia. I mean, it showed up in the results when those two teams played each other. The problem is their problem is coaching, to be honest with you. I feel like coaching has lost them their 3 games this year. Their inability to just either figure out what's going on with Ulysses Bentley or just cut him from the team. And, then going back to the decision in the offseason to not pay Quinshon Judkins or keep Quinshon Judkins happy or whatever they had to do, they'd be undefeated if they just had a little more consistency in the run game. And that's what's killed them all year. And so you have to hope that something like that can happen again, that Kiffin gets in his own way a little bit.
Yeah, I can't explain what's going on with the Bentley situation, but
it's crazy.
And the crazy thing is, remember we were talking in the offseason, like, what are they doing at running back? They kept taking running backs. They got Logan Diggs from LSU. They were going after the guy from New Mexico or something.
Yeah. He ran out of eligibility. Logan Diggs was on the roster. He's just been hurt the whole year.
So they went after all these guys. They got Rashad Amos.
Mm-hmm.
They got all these guys, and they had Bentley returning. Henry Parrish came back in the fold. They had like 6 running backs, and none of them have worked out. Henry Parrish would have been good, but he's been hurt. Not a single running back has worked out. They are down to basically a walk-on from Jackson Prep, and they moved a wide receiver to running back. That is insanity to me.
Yeah.
How that's happened. And what's really insane is, they basically were just throwing the ball around the yard against Georgia. They didn't really have a sustained running game against Georgia.
Right.
And they still were able to win. I didn't think they had a shot in that game if they couldn't run the football.
Yeah.
I don't remember the stats exactly.
Defensively, they forced, 5 turnovers? 4 turnovers in that game?
The defense won that game.
Yeah. The defense has won every game they've played this year. They have.
But you look at like the Oklahoma game. I think they rushed for like 2 yards a carry.
Yeah, they're a little. Go ahead.
I was gonna say this offense is at its best when they're picking up chunks of yards and they're able to run fast, and teams are kind of biting on that play action, and they just don't have it this year. And I thought Florida, they took the run away for the most part. Like I said, the second half, the runs were basically Jackson Dart. Taking off and scrambling. They weren't able to just straight up run the football against Florida. And Florida was covering down the field, and they were winning up front. It really was a struggle for them to do anything on offense. And if they're ever disjointed on the offensive side, it's just really tough for them.
You know what this team is, this Ole Miss team? They're a little better version of State's 2018 team.
Yeah.
They've got a better quarterback. Dart can throw the ball better than Fitzgerald does, but that team,
their offense is like that. It's the opposite. That 2018 was kind of one dimensional with like the read option. Like they couldn't throw the football, and Joe Moorhead was trying to force them to do something they couldn't do. Now, this team can't run the football like they want to. Right. And they're trying to force it with walk-ons and wide receivers. Yeah. It's a very similar team. And their defense is very similar to that one that Mississippi State put on the field in 18.
Very similar. So. All right, let's get the other side of the story here. Let's talk about the Rebels from the Rebel perspective. Michael Borkey, you can see his face right there on my new studio edition here.
Did Richard want to kill you yesterday?
He laughed it off. They both thought it was funny, so I was pleased to see that. So. I think I'm gonna keep it here until after after the week, and then I'll go take it to a toy drive or something and just give it away
with their faces on.
No, I'll take the faces off. Nobody wants.
Come on.
Can you imagine waking up on Christmas morning? You're like, who are those people? Nobody wants that. So we'll do that. So anyway, I talked to Michael earlier today. Let's get his thoughts on the Rebels and this game. It is Egg Bowl week. It is time to talk about the Ole Miss Rebels. Michael Borkey joins me from Sports Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Report. What are you doing?
Pumping myself up. Let's go.
Okay. I get it.
I'm my own hype man here.
Somebody's if you can't hype yourself up, no, who else will? I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Gerard Hamilton from Power Mizzou last week. They were coming off of a loss that effectively eliminated them from playoff contention. That's where Ole Miss kind of is right now. I know you just tweeted, but I'm not going to buy into that hype.
So there's no hype to it. There's no hype.
There's no logic either. Don't even start.
But the thing is, there is logic. And that's what's so ridiculous about the situation, because Ole Miss does not deserve to make the playoff. I don't think they deserve it. They have not played well enough. They have lost 3 games that they should not have lost. They don't deserve to make the playoff. But if the committee ranks them 14 tonight, if they get ranked 14 tonight,
you're saying there's a path.
There is a path. Now, it takes 3 losses.
It's fraught with peril.
But, I mean, in 2 weeks, 3 losses in front of them, it could happen. Now, it starts with having to look really good on Friday. But there is a path. And so you're talking.
Let's just simmer down here.
You're asking the question about motivation.
That's what I'm asking you about. Well, not even motivation. It's more like mentally. Where is this team mentally coming into this game?
Well, I think we'll find out in the first 15 minutes on Friday. There's no way of knowing for sure. But if I'm Lane Kiffin, that's what I'm trying to sell to them. Even though personally, I don't think they deserve to make the playoff. It's, hey, ranked 14, look good. And I mean, you saw what happened last Saturday. Chaos can happen. And that's what I would sell to them to try to keep them engaged. But that's the question in this game is, how bought in will the team continue to be after they lost a game which should eliminate them from playoff contention? I mean, you've got a lot of guys. And, what's funny is that the questions about motivation, all people point to the guys on defense. But those are the ones that have given you consistent effort and execution all season through injury and other things. So, like the question of, will Walter Nolan, the 1-year rental, be locked in for the Egg Bowl? I mean, he's played through a bad ankle and now a messed up hand really all season. And so him giving it up now doesn't seem likely, especially when another really good performance. His draft stock continues to go up and up and up. But there's no way to know for sure. But that is the question in this game is how locked in will Ole Miss be after the disappointment that was last Saturday?
And for Dart, locked in's not the issue for him. That guy plays at a high level. But one of the great football cliches is don't let one game beat you twice. You saw the emotion of Dart after that game and on the sidelines. There are there concerned that he's just going to be emotionally disconnected in the wrong way here?
Especially because of what happened after the game. But I mean, this loss, you could talk about the Florida loss for hours because after the game,
we did just yesterday.
But I mean, 10 hours.
Yeah.
Because after the game, Jackson Dart takes to the podium and he apologizes to everyone. He's like, I'm sorry to the team. I'm sorry to the fans, to the school, to the town of Oxford. He's like, I let you guys down. I'm so sorry. And I thought, one, that's a pretty admirable thing for a quarterback to do. But two, that he's not the one that should be making that apology to anybody. I'm with you, though. You kind of set it up with you generally should not worry about Jackson Dart's motivation. If through all the criticism that a lot of it's justified over the years, or questions about ceiling and things like that. Effort and toughness has not been a thing that you can question. And truly, I would be surprised if after the emotions kind of died down on Saturday, he didn't get back to work in practice on Sunday and try to get everybody locked back in. Because even though, they have come up short of expectations for sure, I mean, there's still a lot of legacy for him to leave behind. And he was kind of the ringleader in the production of this roster. Mm-hmm. And so I of all players on this team, I think the one that you should be least worried about being adequately prepared and locked in and motivated is Jackson Dart.
I don't want you to go too far down into the rumor mill. I don't want you to dig in the dirt or anything like that. But why the hell does Ulysses Bentley not play for Ole Miss? Just what is your thought process there? Because you'd be undefeated. Ole Miss would be undefeated if they had just either paid Judkins or given Bentley the carries that we know from his talent he can deliver on.
I mean, the only conclusion that I can come to that makes sense is personal. And that doesn't necessarily mean scandal per se, because there's a lot of, and you know this, you've covered Mississippi State for how many years? You know that sometimes rumors fly out of nowhere, and not only are they illogical, but they're also personally damaging.
Yes.
There are things being said about not necessarily Bentley, but other people around that I mean, I wish would stop because it's starting to err on the side of discussing innuendo about young women, and that needs to stop.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because no answer has been adequate, right? Because you brought it up just now, that they let, regardless of how you think the Judkins thing played out, Judkins leaves. And that situation was toxic at the end, and he goes elsewhere. And by the way, that's one of those rare breakups where both sides lost. Yeah. I mean, he did not get starter reps at Ohio State, and his stock has kind of gone down a little bit because Henderson outplayed him this season. He's the better back. But if you allow that situation to happen, right? So Judkins leaves. The first thing they did, and the messaging out of the program was, gotta lock down Bentley. Gotta make sure he stays. And they paid him to stay. A lot of money. And all offseason, he was the guy that was promoted as, hey, Judkins is gone, but look at this dynamic back look at what he did last year. Look at how explosive he is.
I go back to media days when we talked to Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl, and he was telling us scouts wanted to see more of Bentley and less of Judkins last year.
Yeah, and Lane kind of ripped on Pro Football Focus yesterday, but the head of the Senior Bowl, who has Super Bowl rings as a scout and deals with scouts every single day of his life for his career, does not make up that NFL teams have a higher grade on Bentley than Judkins. He doesn't make that stuff up. He doesn't pander that way. That's just an honest opinion. So you have this guy coming back, and you bring in two more guys from the transfer portal, Henry Parrish and Rashad Amos, who State fans are very familiar with. They know who that guy is because they recruited him and they had him committed for a period of time. So you bring these two guys in, and Parrish is the starter, which is fine. An experienced back, played at Ole Miss, multiple years, veteran player, and he did fine. Like, he did good things. He was fine. So him starting that's okay. But his backup was a walk-on. His backup was a walk-on that when you watched play, you knew, yeah, he can get yards against Furman in Middle Tennessee, but that's not an SEC back, and you know it. And yet he still got meaningful snaps. And then he gets hurt. And then Parrish is banged up. And so all of this is going on, and people are wondering where Bentley is, but they're winning games, and Parrish is doing good things. So it's kind of an offshoot question, not at the forefront. And then Baton Rouge happens. And you give him 11 carries, and he runs for 110 yards. Ole Miss is only a 100-yard rushing season by a player this year. Was that one game? Mm-hmm. And on a 4th and short, he breaks off a long touchdown run in a way that nobody else on that team could. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, that takes away he's lost his step, or the walk-on is better than him. And then he stops playing again. And you continue on, and then you get to Georgia, where he only had like 30 rushing yards against Georgia, but he had a red zone touchdown,
right?
Which is something that they struggled with on Saturday. 0 for 3 in the red zone. He scored a red zone touchdown and then caught the ball nicely out of the backfield. Like, made big plays against Georgia, but then a game later can't touch the field again. So it's like, if he isn't good enough to play, then why do you play him in big spots in Baton Rouge and against Georgia? And then when you do, he produces.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense. And then he's not consistent enough thing that Kiffin said on Sunday, that doesn't make sense either when you're playing a converted wide receiver at running back the majority of the snaps. So none of that makes any sense. And then on top of that, the aforementioned Rashad Amos doesn't get a single meaningful snap this season. Not one. Not a single one. So that was...
I can't help but think State dodged a big bullet with Amos, just not bringing him in. It feels like...
Did they?
I don't know, but we
don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that guy.
But so you either grossly misevaluated that player, which is that's a problem. That is an issue. And you could not develop Bentley, or he regressed, which is an issue, or it's personal and mismanagement, which is an issue. Like, that's a long-winded way to say I don't know why it's happening. There are rumors, and there's no way to know what's true and what's not.
Right.
But the trust the coaches angle was removed when he played and produced. And when you play a converted wide receiver over him, And like Dominic Thomas, who did some nice things, he couldn't play over a converted wide receiver either. Rashad Amos couldn't play over walk-ons. There is no answer that is acceptable, even if it's as simple as some people are saying that, well, the coaches just don't believe he's the answer. Well, that's a failure too. It is exclusively a failure at the running back position after letting Quinshaw Judkins walk.
So you're one of the few people that I interview that I know follow State as closely as they follow the team that they cover. And so with that being said, you've watched this Mississippi State team. You know how poor they've been on the offensive line this year. Sort of like last week where I said, with Missouri, like I'm not sure who slows down Luther Burden. Now, Burden didn't have a huge game. He did have a really nice touchdown catch, and he made a few plays. But, State's inability to stop the run was its undoing. Kind of the same thing again this week. Ole Miss hasn't run the ball all well at all this year. I fully expect them to be able to run the football. But where I'm worried State loses the game or where it gets away from them quickly is the fact that they're going to have trouble blocking this Ole Miss offensive line, our defensive line. If you're Mississippi State, I'll put you in maroon and white here for a second. What's the game plan there? How do you try to neutralize what Ole Miss does so well, and that's get after the passer without blitzing?
Is there a way? Because there's probably not one. I mean, if the question of motivation, if that defensive front is motivated, then my expectation is that they will make it really hard on MVP and that Mississippi State offensive line. I mean, that group, for all the questions about, portal recruiting and, did they use the money the right way? Because I've seen a lot of people say Ole Miss wasted all of that money. No, they didn't waste all of it.
They didn't waste it on that side of the ball. Not one penny.
Walter Nolan is exactly, and he's been all season exactly as advertised. Princely's been exactly as advertised. Pegues and Ivy and Perkins, I mean, they lead the country in sacks and tackles for loss for a reason. And it's not just because of the non-conference games. They have been truly effective against everybody all season long and consistently so. And on top of that, their linebacker play is also really, really good. And so, yeah, I think that it's going to be a very long day for Mississippi State's offensive line. Those guys are all going to be playing in the NFL next year, with the exception of Perkins because he, by rule, cannot. But the other four will be, and two of them possibly first-round picks. And they are every bit as advertised as you think that they are. The key for State, I mean, Florida was able to do it some, explosive runs. And
State's been better in the run game these past couple of weeks. Devon Booth has had some big games. That possibility is there.
That is absolutely there. And at times, Ole Miss has given up some explosive runs is a relative term. I mean, we're talking about, first down runs, not, untouched for 50 yards kind of thing.
Right. A 12-yard run is fine, yeah.
But they gave that up some last week against Florida. But what's crazy is, I mean, that was a quote-unquote bad game for that defense. Florida averaged fewer than 4 yards per carry, and they scored touchdowns on 3 of their 14 possessions. Yeah. So it's a defense that's absolutely as advertised.
Where is Ole Miss weak? Either side of the ball, where are they weak?
Well, they can't run the ball. They've struggled doing that. Wide receiver health now is becoming interesting, and tight end health as well. You're not going to see Trey Harris in this game. Jordan Watkins has been dealing with a hamstring injury. Little talked about, little discussed. Juice Wells has actually been dealing with a nagging injury as well. He hadn't played well, and that's kind of hurt that discussion on top of it all. But I mean, Caden Prieskorn's been playing on a torn ligament in his knee, if you believe the rumors. And Daquan Wright got hurt. Now he's going to play on Friday, but he got hurt in the Florida game. So Ole Miss is kind of limping in from a weapons perspective offensively. And at times, the secondary has given up big plays. Trey Amos has been excellent. I mean, he's a true lockdown corner, but they have at times given up some explosive plays in the passing game. It's been much better lately than it was earlier in the season, but I think that the second defensive back is somebody that Mississippi State can exploit if given the opportunity to throw the ball. But it's the inability to run. It's banged up weapon-wise offensively, and it's at times they've given up explosive plays when teams are not targeting Trey Amos. When they're targeting the other side of the field, they've found some success.
All right, you know that every week here on the pod when we do our preview, we pick a player called an X factor. Not necessarily the guy who's going to have the biggest game offensively or defensively, but somebody who could slip under the cracks and make a big play in this game that makes a difference. Now, I'm not going to be honest with you. You know, when I get to my prediction on Friday's show, I'm not predicting a close game at all. So you got some options here, I guess. Who's somebody that, you know, outside of Dart, outside of Nolan, outside of Perkins, that you could say, hey, they could have a big day on Friday?
So this is kind of a cop-out because he's a Butkus finalist, but Chris Paul Jr., I refuse to say his nickname. It makes me uncomfortable. Pooh Paul.
Pooh Paul?
Um, he's a Butkus finalist for a reason. He's been spectacular for Ole Miss, and you know the defensive line got all the hype and all the attention, and that's all people talk about. But they've got a middle linebacker that's having, I mean, possibly the best season at that position since Patrick Willis. I mean, truly, he's been that good for them this year. So, I mean, you'll see him be really active. He's a tackle for loss machine, and that'll be the guy I think that State fans may not be too familiar with. They're familiar with the other guys on defense, but that'll be the guy that when they're watching the game on Friday, they'll think, "Damn, who is that guy, and where did he come from?" And sure enough, it was Arkansas.
We'll see what happens on Friday. Plenty of coverage on Sports Talk Mississippi over the next couple of days. And, of course, Borkey and I will be live on Friday. It's to 1 now, right? 9 to 1. We're on for 4 hours.
Is it? I didn't know that.
That's what I saw in an email. I'm pretty sure we're on for 4 hours Monday, taking you all the way into the pregame show for both Ole Miss and Mississippi State on Friday. Michael Borkey, Sports Talk Mississippi, The Rebel Report. Thank you, friend.
Anytime.
Thanks to Michael. Appreciate his time. Of course, like we said, Sports Talk Mississippi all week and on Friday. Friday, early morning, or not early morning, morning through the afternoon, 4 hours Sports Talk Mississippi, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on all your SuperTalk channels. We will be doing a pregame show. Me and Michael will have plenty to talk about as we get closer and closer to kickoff, lead you right into pregame for Mississippi State and Ole Miss. All right, let's move into the rest of the show. That's brought to you by our friends over at Pip Printing and Signs. Reliable service for every business need. You think about the holidays and how excited you are when you get a Christmas card from someone you love. I think you should be excited when you find out, you know, the businesses that you like to go to are offering awesome specials. And the way that you find that out is, hey, you go in the mailbox and, hey, what are they offering? Oh, well, let's go check that out. Getting the message of your business out there is what good printing does for you. Pip Printing and Signs are the best. That's why they've been doing it for 30-plus years. So what you need to do if you're a business owner, go to the website, first off, pipridgeland.com, and get an idea of the services that they offer. Get an idea of the services you might be interested in. Then call Cam Baker and say, heard about you on Thunder and Lightning. What can we do together here? Help me out. Make my business click the way you've done for so many in the past. 601-499-5216. He'll take care of everything else. When you need printing, call Pip today. Two Brothers Smoked Meats in the heart of the Cotton District is the place to find the smoked Southern soul food that you are looking for. I always enjoy smoked Southern soul food. I don't know what it is. It's just good. I just like to eat it. And probably going to have to do so very, very soon. It's been too long. I have I got a calendar, and like if I don't eat a chicken Chipotle taco at least once a month, it's a problem. It becomes a problem for me. So
Start having withdrawals.
What did you say?
You start having withdrawals.
Oh, I thought you said something happens with your drawers. I was like, what's going on here? What's wrong with you? But no, it was me. It was me.
It's always you.
It's always you. Withdrawals. Your southern accent.
Withdrawals.
There you go.
I mean, I'm from the state of Mississippi.
I know.
I figured you could be able to pick up what I'm saying.
I didn't. I did not at all.
Withdrawals.
I did not at all. I didn't.
Proceed.
My bad.
Proceed.
So the food's really good there, is what I'm trying to say. It's quite tasty. I also like to eat at the Older Brothers, Starkville's best new restaurant, when I'm in the mood for a fancy sandwich. The croque monsieur, the muffaletta, the shrimp po' boy. Or one of the best burgers in town, the Older Brother Burger, outstanding, and of course the best French fries in the city of Starkville. It's all right there. It's right there in the Cotton District at Two Brothers Smoked Meats and the Older Brother. Great products, great service. Every business likes to promise it to you. They deliver it to you at Advantage Business Systems. That's what they've been doing for 50 years.
50.
50. When you need technology for your business, call Advantage Business Systems. They've got the best name brands and the best prices. But where they really stand out is the service after the sale. If you have a problem, they are a phone call away, and it's a real phone call. It's a 601 number. It's not 1-800-1888-1900, 1-800-COLLECT, whatever the WCW hotline was. None of those numbers are in play. It's just the same 601 number that you call to make the sale on. And you talk to a real person on the other end of the line. That's the difference between being a neighbor and being a number. 601-362-9192, or you can visit them online, absms.com. Find out how Advantage Business Systems will help your business do business. If you're going to be in Starkville anytime soon for an MSU sporting event, before you go to the stadium, before you go to the ballpark, before you go anywhere, you need to go to Maroon & Co. Get some new gear and rock the new logos that you want to be wearing at an MSU sporting event. They've got them all. They've got a bigger and better selection than anybody else. It's all right there for you at Maroon & Co. Use our promo code in-store or online. Thunder15 saves you 15% off regular price items. Some exclusions do apply. Before you go to any game at Mississippi State, make sure you've gone to Maroon & Co. All right, let's have a little fun now. It's been so dark and damp this football season. Let's try to enjoy it. Let's remember the good times here. We're going to have some of these interviews this week. Nick Fitzgerald joins me now. Talked about the 2016 and the 2018 Egg Bowl, two dominating wins for the Bulldogs in Oxford behind Nick Fitzgerald and the unstoppable force he was against the Rebels in those two games. So let's go now to that interview. It is Egg Bowl week. As we do every year, we're going to try to get some of the great former Bulldogs on the podcast, on the radio, to talk with us about some of their memories and their moments in that game. Few had more big moments in the Egg Bowl than this man, Nick Fitzgerald, from Mississippi State quarterback. I'm going to do you a favor. We're not going to worry about anything happened in 2017. It didn't happen as far as we're concerned for the purposes of this particular podcast. How about that?
We can definitely do that.
Right.
We'll act like that year just is non-existent. That's fine with me.
So 2016, kind of a similar year to the one Mississippi State's having right now, in that defensively, we'll just be generous, so that team struggled at times defensively. Going into that Egg Bowl, Ole Miss was struggling as well. It was kind of an odd Egg Bowl, maybe the last one where there really weren't any stakes for anybody, other than the pride of winning that game. The offensive performance you guys put on that one is so dominant. Is that one that during that week of practice and watching film, Coach Mullen was like, we have something for them that they're not expecting?
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I mean, there's a lot on the line for us in 2016. We were trying to make it to a bowl game, and that win would have brought either team up to 6 wins to go to a bowl game. I think they were also 5-6 going into it. I could be wrong though. But I know we definitely were, and we were fighting for a bowl. And that was something that we talked about. We wanted to make sure that we got that. But in terms of the offense, watching film, I think it was more just along the lines of, we knew that if we wanted to run the ball, there wasn't going to be anything that's going to stop us. I think going into that game, we knew their run defense was pretty abysmal, and we knew that our big guys up front were just going to handle business, which they did all game.
What's interesting about the way that game starts is I'm in the stadium and I'm thinking, man, Aris Williams has a real chance to break State's all-time rushing record in this game. He got off to a monster start, and then in the second half is when you took over running the football. But let's start about that first half. Aris Williams, as you said, was pretty much unstoppable, and you guys were just gashing them with the run game. Aris is one of the more underrated players in Mississippi State history. I don't think enough people throw him in there with the discussion of running backs. What do you remember about his performance from that day?
Man, first off, Aris was an awesome guy, and I agree with you. He doesn't get talked about enough. That man was an absolute workhorse. He busted his ass every day we were there. He went out of his way to make sure that he learned his assignments as a running back, which, not to hate on the position, but that was something that they struggled to do sometimes. And man, I just remember I didn't even really have to worry about it, man. I just handed the ball off. I knew we were getting 6 yards at least. So it was just something that it was so automatic that we we went into the game knowing that we were going to be able to run the ball. And then we got into the game and we really knew that we could run the ball. And Harris was just right down their throats, breaking tackles, hurdling dudes, spin moves. I remember he brought out every single move he had in that game.
Yeah. One of the things I think people forget about because of how dominant the run game was in that one is that you threw 3 touchdowns in this game. You didn't have a great day completion percentage wise, but you got 3 scores. The one that always stands out to me, and it's a play that you guys had in the playbook. I remember you ran it against Ole Miss in this game, and you ran it against LSU the next year. The play where you run out like you're going to sweep out, and it just wide open Malik Deer in the end zone. Sort of talk us through that play, because that one is one that always stands out to me of how wide open he was.
Yeah, you want to talk about a safety just completely leaving their coverage and then their responsibility. And again, it was one of those things where when I go back and watch the film afterwards, I'm like, there's no way people actually thought I was running that ball. I did a terrible fake on both of those plays in 2016 and in 2017. But I think just the sheer amount of times and everything that I did run the ball, they had to they had to honor it and they had to come up and try to stop it. And Malik Deer just ran right by everybody. At that point, I was like, let's just get it to him. I was like, don't overthrow, don't just lob the ball up there.
Yeah.
Don't ruin this for yourself. I never had really that great of a game throwing the ball in any game. So just make sure that he can catch this ball, make sure it's easy. And when there's no one within 20 yards of you, I could have punted it to him.
So you guys got out to a big lead in that game, and then Ole Miss puts together a comeback. They tie the game. And then when the game breaks open is the 4th down play to Fred Ross. Fred Ross had a fantastic year in 2016. That's his only catch of the game, but it's the biggest play of the game at the same time. What does it say about a player like Fred that at the moment you had to have him, he shows up for you?
That was our go-to guy all year. 2016 was Fred Ross's year to get the ball. I knew he was out there. I knew what routes he was running, so I knew I had someone that I could trust was going to be where they were supposed to be and was going to catch the ball. But in that game, you can see leading up to that play, downfield, huge blocks by Fred Ross. Doing what he's supposed to do. Even when he's not getting the ball, he hasn't touched the ball all game. He's still down there just busting his ass to get blocks downfield and to spring guys open. And then when he finally gets the chance and his number gets called, he runs a fantastic route, peels his guy right off him on a pick play, and then takes it to the house down the sideline. And again, on another play, Harris Williams is down there on the field, down there on the goal line, blocking dudes, still trying to get him in the end zone. We talked about the 2 guys that really were workhorses, and Fred Ross gets some love, but neither one of those guys really get enough.
And then, of course, the 4th quarter is the Nick Fitzgerald show, where you break off a couple of long touchdown runs, just absolute dominance there. When you're I would never have any experience running free with the football, as you might can guess. When you're running free like that, and you realize, when you see that hole open up, the long touchdown run especially, as soon as you make the fake, it like the Red Sea parted in front of you. What goes through a player's mind in that moment where you're like, I'm going to the house?
For me, it was always more of a fear of being caught than it was an excitement of making it to the end zone. I never got caught from behind in any single run, and I wanted to keep that as long as I possibly could. So on the play you're talking about, I'm looking up at the jumbotron, trying to figure out where people are behind me so I can move out of the way. I don't want to give anyone an opportunity to catch up. But if you can't see it, I may not be smiling on the outside, but it is just a massive shit-eating grin the entire way down the field, and especially getting to do it, in Ole Miss, in Vaught Hemingway, and getting the end of game like we did, some big runs, and then we'll get to it, but a massive defensive play at the end to really seal it. 55-20 is about as much of a butt kicking as you possibly can give someone in the SEC.
Let's talk about that last play that you mentioned there. Cedric Giles gets the pick 6. You're on the sidelines, obviously. What is the mood on the sidelines? Because Giles was a guy, he battled injuries. He was, this was his last game at Mississippi State, I think, and his career, like I said, the injuries had just almost wiped him out. But to come back and make that kind of play, you guys had to be stoked for him.
Man, Ced was such an awesome guy, and everything that he had to go through. It kind of sucks to happen to a person like that. But an extremely awesome guy. Always very humble, always super friendly. And to see him get to get a massive play like that to end the career after everything he went through was huge. He deserved it. A lot of those guys deserve to go out on a bang like that. So, as terrible as I would say the 2016 season was for us, to get to end it like that was huge for those seniors, I think.
All right, let's move forward down to 2018, and you're back in Oxford. We referenced at the beginning, but 2017 obviously leaves a very sour taste in your mouth coming in there. This is a bad Ole Miss team. We know that defensively they are not a good team at all. You guys, you were 7-4 coming into this game. You'd had some ups and downs this season, but this is kind of the opposite, right? When you come into this game, you thinking we're going to win this game big. Was that the mentality coming in?
Yeah, again, you like to think that you have that confidence going into every game, but especially in Egg Bowl, where emotions are going to be really high and people are going to be playing at their absolute hardest. You can kind of tell, again, kind of like 2016. You kind of tell like their defense was pretty subpar. We knew that we were going to be able to do what we wanted to, and we kind of, if my memory serves me correctly, we kind of controlled that game the entire time. And again, a huge defensive day. 2018, our defense was absolutely incredible. I wish our offense could have lived up to be on their level. I think we would have been something real special. But man, we just controlled the game the entire way. Again, just had a really, really good game plan going into it. And we knew exactly what we wanted to attack.
This is a game where, coming into it, Kylan Hill had been a little beat up and we weren't sure if he wanted to play. He breaks off a long run. I think that leads to the State's first touchdown in that game. We talked about Eris a little bit ago. Kylan Hill, kind of another player that sometimes doesn't get the full due that he deserves. Led the SEC in rushing the next year after you were gone. What kind of player was Kylan Hill on this team?
I always thought Kylan was a good guy. I know I believe he had a little bit of issues after I left. And I hate it for him. You can kind of see streaks of it from time to time. But he was always a great kid to me. He was always a great teammate. I never had any single issues with him. But a huge game for him, a huge run. And again, somebody who had to battle through a lot that season. And somebody that doesn't get the due that they deserve because of kind of the ending of their career here at Mississippi State. And again, it's not fair, but it kind of is what it is.
In that game, you mentioned the defense. I mean, Ole Miss that year was more of an offensive team. They had A.J. Brown. They had DK Metcalf. Tamu was a good quarterback for them, but they only get 3 points in this game. The defense dominated from start to finish. When you played that season, how much confidence did you go out there every week with? Just saying, if we can get 24, probably going to win the game.
Man, you want to talk about just knowing, at any point that we were going to get a stop, that was definitely the year. The confidence that we had as an offense, and I really wish that we could have been a better offense to really kind of complement how insane our defense was. But I never had a doubt in my mind that we were going to get a big stop when we needed a big stop. We needed to stop the run. We were going to stop the run. We needed to get a big sack here, really back them up. We were going to get that. It was kind of a safety net for us in a way. Knowing that even if we're struggling real bad, if we can just figure it out here and there, our defense will keep us in this game long enough to make it happen.
Where were you during the fight?
You can see me very firmly standing, both feet down on our sideline, watching it all go down on their sideline. I had the smallest urge really the biggest urge to go out there and just start swinging my helmet around. But I wanted an opportunity to play at the next level, and I figured, you got quarterbacks out there, it's just swinging helmets at people is probably not going to look like a great thing. And honestly, I'm not trying to break my hand on anybody either. I got to make sure I keep throwing the ball. So, it was interesting to watch for sure. I think I still think Matt Corral needs to send Braxton Hoyette a gift basket every single year for the rest of his life. But other than that, it was a very emotional game. Everybody knows what that rivalry is. Everybody knows how that game is played, and kind of how dirty one side of it has been for some time. And I will definitely stand by those words to the day I die. it was going to happen eventually, and it just kind of all boiled over right there in that moment.
You did get a personal foul though, because everybody got
I
one.
did.
Have you ever
I
been
did
a
get a
part of a
personal
game
foul.
where everybody got a personal foul?
Everybody, I have never seen that one
That's out of
before.
a movie.
I'm looking over at the ref. I'm like, the hell did I do? I'm over here on the sideline, man. It's like I should be allowed to go have my own personal foul and then have another one left over. If I want to celebrate extra hard, now I have an opportunity of getting kicked out of the game. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, it is what it is on that one.
Collective punishment. I think that's against the Geneva Convention or something, man. We gotta we gotta figure that one out.
Is there a better feeling than playing in a rivalry game where there's a trophy involved and getting to raise it in front of the other team's fans?
No, definitely not. Especially not in their stadium.
Yeah.
Especially not in front of the worst human beings I've ever met in my entire life. Y'all heard me.
Nick
And
Fitzgerald, everybody.
yeah, no, it's no, I'm just kidding. You guys are fine. I actually really do love the people of Mississippi. You guys are awesome. I give you all hell on Twitter every now and then, but it's all in good fun. No, it's an amazing feeling, man. It's something that, again, we never really made it the focus of our season ever. But our fans and everybody else, sure really did. And that's not a bad thing. It's great to have a rivalry. It's great to have something passionate about to end the season on. But man, what a feeling, just going through both like 2016 and 2018. To go through those seasons, through the battles, the ups and downs, and then getting to kind of end the season on a huge note, is a massive road victory at your rival's place, holding that trophy up high, running around with it, having a good time, smoking some cigars, having Dan Mullen yell out UT Chattanooga. It's some of the memories that are going to last with me, long after I've forgotten most of them.
They will last with Mississippi State fans just as long, my friend. I promise you that. Nick Fitzgerald, man, thanks so much for your time. Happy Thanksgiving to you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Hail State, everybody.
Thanks to Nick. Appreciate his time. Really good stuff. Hope to get another interview before now and then. If not, we're going to have another classic interview on the pod today on the podcast feed. That's going to be with Robert Bean, reliving the 98 and 99 Egg Bowl. So that's a really good one as well. We'll try to get us some new stuff, but if not, we'll just keep the classic stuff coming. All right, tomorrow's show, there is no tomorrow's show. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys out there. Enjoy the turkey. Enjoy the dressing. Robbie and I will be back with you on Friday morning for the 3 Ps to take you up to kickoff of the Egg Bowl and the battle between Mississippi State and Ole Miss. For Robbie Faulk, I'm Brian Hadad. Thanks for listening to Thunder and Lightning here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.